All right. Welcome to a rambunctious Linebreak Podcast where we're going to do some questions and answers. And so I think we should get right into it. I'm going to introduce everyone. So just introduce yourselves. So Adam, go first.
Hi, I'm Adam.
Harbl.
Yeah, this is Harbl Stuff, also known as Declan, or I suppose the other way around. Declan, also known as Harbl Stuff.
And Ed.
Hello.
Ed, otherwise known as Wallopy Joe. Right, so we're going to just crack on to question one because we asked you some questions in the subreddit and you provided. And it should be on your screen now. Can you see that? Hopefully. So I'm going to go straight to Adam with this one. I forgot my other name has asked, would it be worth the expense to get Hawkeye implemented into other tournaments, e.g. Super Rugby?
Oh,
That's the first question.
So the benefit of Hawkeye would be grounding the ball, I'm guessing, and...
Well, that's purely what it's used for, isn't it? It's used for purely grounding the ball.
I don't see why not. I don't see why having technology would be bad. Anything that can kind of help make a decision. I mean, the TMO's made a massive difference to the game. And if that can help with something like grounding the ball, because there have been issues, especially in the World Cup just gone, with if the ball has been grounded or not, then yeah, I don't see really too many downsides to it. I think it'd just be used as an additional thing to TMO.
I agree. I do think that in some cases it can slow the game down and people get a little bit annoyed by that, but you know what? If it gets it right and it is purely for grounding the ball and not for anything else, then I think that's completely fine in my eyes.
Yeah, that's my view as well, I think.
I think the biggest... I'm not so sure, not the biggest benefit, but the thing that I would call to it the most is the last Aviva Premiership, I want to say final, between Northampton Saints and Saracens. The game was won by Northampton Saints on what I think is still contested as perhaps an incredibly controversial call. And that was whether the ball was grounded or not. Into extra time, overtime, clock was red. JP Hodges went up to the TMO and the try was awarded. But I imagine that were they to have Hawkeye, there would be a lot less...
well, there'd be a lot less controversy, and it would just get it sorted out. The next question he's got up is the logic behind 2 yellow cards, 1 red in a game. Once the team has been given pre-warnings, and if you get a second yellow based on the team, is it fair that you then get your red card? And wouldn't 2 20-minute sessions be enough because you're just punishing the team? I think that was the example he gave. Does that make sense?
I like that 2 yellow cards equals a red. I mean, I know that, if, say... if you commit a very cynical infringement in the first 10 minutes that gets you a yellow card, and then perhaps it's a prop, who then, at the beginning of the second half, gets yellow carded for repeated infringements at the scrum. I suppose you could argue for a fair amount that it would be an unfair call, but I think with the way 20 minutes with 14 players, I mean...
I think we have to trust a ref's discretion here, because if there are repeat infringements and someone with a yellow card that knows there's a problem actually does cause an infringement again, then they do deserve a second yellow card, and they do deserve that to be a full red. They don't.
Can we I suppose discuss what the effects of that are on the mentality of the referee? For example, in Ireland, Argentina, I would have been happy with a second yellow, but you could clearly see that the referee did not want to give another yellow because it would lead to a red card. Which I think was, quite unfair. But at the same time, I don't think it was going to win or lose a match, for example. But it was still something that, Stade Francais just scored, FYI.
Okay, well, we're getting live updates as we go.
But you see what I mean, is referees then get quite apprehensive and quite worried to, give the second yellow card. because it will be a red. So I think that just makes referees then act a lot more conservative than they should be. And, you know, if you would ask me, would I be happy if it was just another 10 minutes? Yeah, I would have. I think, you know, a red card, would that have resulted in Ireland's win? I wouldn't have wanted to have won in that way. But it's still something that was on my mind when that did happen. So it is a good question, but I think I'm going to have to side with Wallopy Joe here and say, yeah, 2 yellows should be a red. Is there any way to counteract referees being overly conservative? I don't know.
Here's the thing. I kind of, just thinking on the point, I almost want to go back on myself because, you know, there are moments where...
He's just going in circles.
No, maybe, but there are moments where, you know, where one pack is dominating the other in a scrum.
And so there's repeat infringement, so the ref gives a warning, yeah.
No, I know, but I mean, there are occasions, not many of them, it is still quite a rare occurrence, but there are many occasions where the referee will then yellow card one of the props. But if you go into, I mean, this is just one example, but if you think about how poorly the scrum is reffed in general, and how ropey some of those yellow card decisions might be, to, you know, have one of those players red carded if he was yellow carded for, you know, a scrum having already cynically fouled someone in the beginning, perhaps less fair, but I suppose just to bring it full circle, I'm happy with the way it works now.
I think we'll stick with your first answer, and 2 yellows equals a red being fair. Adam, what's your quick take on it?
I think 2 yellows and a red. I think you're given the yellow card as a warning, as you get the 10 minutes, but then you're further disciplined to not breach is kind of, I guess, quite similar to football, and I think you're always running a fine line once you've run the yellow. I
completely agree with you. I think that the team warning's fine, but you know that if you've got your first yellow, you cannot commit any infringements. It doesn't matter whether it's the team that's got all the warnings or not. You cannot commit another infringement because you might get a yellow card. So at the end of the day, someone else has to make those infringements if they're forced upon you. We're going to move on to question 2. And this one's for Fred, so this is why I wanted him on the podcast. Who are Biarritz? If someone
wants to... If only Fred was here. Biarritz are currently the bottom club in the Pro D2.
Not as good as their neighbours, Bayonne, but, you know, getting there.
I think this picture is completely relevant to asking who Biarritz are. So yeah, I'm just going to leave that up.
Ooh, bonus point for Leicester. Sorry guys, I've got it on my screen here. So.
We're moving on to question 4. This is an Irish one for you, Harbl, so you're going to answer this. Connacht's rise. Are other teams at threat, and does this shake up the balance of the 4 provinces at all? And this comes from our own Nero, who decided to sneak in and get one of his own questions on.
Oi, I didn't think he was allowed to do that.
Nor did I.
Well, he's done it, so you've got to answer the question anyway.
Very good question. So, you know, I suppose let's just look at the brief history of Connacht. In Pro 12 competitions past, they have done quite well at the start of the season. Not as good as they have done now. I think this is their best year since 2002. And generally then after Christmas, their squad is smaller, their replacement players aren't as good, and they end up, you know, starting to lose games and going on a losing streak. Last year, I think it started with the Cardiff Blues and Leighton Hodges' weird call. But this year, to me and to everybody else, does seem different because they seem quite structured. They seem to have unearthed some good talent and made some very good acquisitions in terms of players. Connacht rising is, I think, fantastic for Irish rugby. I think it's necessary. We have Robbie Henshaw over there and Nathan White, 2 Ireland's capped players.
Ireland capped players, not highly capped, but Ireland capped.
but you know, they're part of the Ireland squad, and you know the problem is if you know, the worry is if they're at Connacht, they're not going to be playing the highest level of club competition in Europe, the European Champions Cup, hopefully to be renamed sometime in the near future.
To nothing Heineken.
Anything but the Heineken Cup. So yeah, the Robbie Henshaw at the moment is, he's kind of leaked to the press, or he's spoken to the press and said, yeah, look, my contract is up in December. I'm hoping to have, or up this year, and I'm hoping to have a contract nailed down by December. But I have to tailor fans' expectations that I might have to move club. Reason for that, or rumours are Leinster and Munster are both vying for him. If Connacht is doing well, they're at the top of the table. They're doing better than Ulster, Munster, and Leinster. So, if Connacht stays up there, performs well, not only is that going to increase crowds in Galway and interest in rugby in the west of Ireland, but it's also going to hopefully get Connacht into the European Champions Cup next year. Higher level of competition, more player development, and they get to keep players like Robbie Henshaw. And listening to a lot of pundits in Ireland, the consensus is they want to see, basically the Ireland players, or the best players that Connacht has who are playing for Ireland, they need to have a certain level of competition that they're playing in, and that's going to be good for Irish rugby. If Connacht doesn't make it, then they might have to leave, but nobody actually wants that. They want to see Connacht do well and these players stay there.
And I think they have proven, and they are doing well this season, aren't they? Top at the moment, or second?
They're top.
They're top. There you go.
And they lost to Glasgow away narrowly, very narrowly. So
and Glasgow are a powerhouse nowadays, even without DTH.
So, and even for Leinster going down to Galway, it's not an easy fixture as well. They beat us the last 2 years down there, and I think a few more times down in Galway. But so I can see them finishing a decent top six, which, the question was, is this worrying for Irish rugby? No, I'd say it's, quite honestly, it's more worrying for Welsh or Scottish. Edinburgh is thereabouts between 8 and 6. And the Ospreys have somehow imploded this year, and that leaves Scarlets up at the top for them. Glasgow are going to be probably top 6, top 4. Scarlets potentially as well. So, but if you could see 4 Irish teams in the top 6, that's going to be mental.
I mean, you don't want to say this, but I think one of the questions later on is something about Leinster, but we'll get to that in a bit.
If 4 clubs finish in the top 6, 4 Irish teams, only 3 of them can qualify, can't they?
No.
All 4 get through.
All 4, yeah.
Goodness, I don't think that's fair whatsoever. I think because all the Italians always get in, don't they?
You'd have the Italians. You'd have top 4, and then you'd have the 2 extra spots. So you'd have a
Scot
team,
and you'd have a Welsh, or you'd have an Italian.
No, I think the Pro 12 gets one more place than. Give you the Premiership.
Right, we're moving on to question 4, because Harbl has just rambled on about the Pro 12 for 5 years. Quite delightfully.
You're welcome.
Oh, what? No, I've done a double question. Right, we're moving on to question 5. Is rugby's increasing salary, so we're going to talk about a little bit about top 14 now. Is rugby's increasing salaries and general increase in club power good or bad for the sport, both popularity and culture-wise? So I'm going to put this over to Ed. I want you to talk about Toulon in as neutral a way as possible, and how, well, I don't want to tell you what I think, but essentially talk about the increase in salaries and their club power.
I'm going to need that question one more time.
It's up on the screen.
It is. I have it up.
Yeah. Is rugby's increasing salaries and general increase in club power good or bad for the sport?
I think, broadly speaking, with the exception of teams like Toulon, where, Boujalal does seem to prioritise club over country.
Beaujolais.
It's my apologies.
I don't know.
If
ask Fred.
He's not here. Okay, put it this way. For one, Johnny Wilkinson doesn't play for Toulon anymore, so I can be as either neutral or partisan against them as I never was before. But I think, Christ, especially just the amount of money that the World Cup has just kind of funneled into the RFU, and the amount of money that, as much as I hate what they've done over the past few weeks with regards to England itself, what they have done is build up grassroots incredibly well. And I figure if more money is going towards clubs, it's still likely that a lot of, the lower, not just the domestic teams, the club teams, but their academies and their local smaller clubs will also likely get a fair amount of funding as well. So if they can more can be spent on advertising, or more can be spent on up and coming players or the academy players, it's gonna reach. I mean, it may start off slow, it may start off quick. I mean, in England, I think there won't be too big of a change. France, I couldn't comment on France because I have no idea what they're doing ever, because I don't think anybody can. Where it matters, I think, most is in the US, because they have the biggest potential to get bigger with regards to both.
We've got that question coming up, but you bring up a really good point with the US, in that I think you're right that if the money comes into it, suddenly players will look at it as a viable option.
And so, just to final point, I won't sidetrack into the US then, just keep it based on what I might know, or I'm trying to bullshit as best I can. If the money is coming into the clubs, and the clubs are getting better, and hopefully the potential of the players, the talent of the players is getting better, then those players, as their quality increases, as the caliber of their play increases, and they get selected for international duties, then that should hopefully mean that the international game picks up as well. And I don't know whether that's going to happen across the board for all the countries that are part of the World Rugby's list of countries, but I'm sure it should.
That's quite interesting, because if you look at the way that I'm always going to compare it in this way.
You're about to tell me I'm wrong, aren't you?
No. But if you look at the way the English Football League is run, and how that has they've increased the amount of foreign players within the English Football League, and that was the idea of that, was to, if we've got the best in the world playing, and the English are going to play with the best in the world, then they'll get better. But then you look at the quality of the English international side, and you're meant to be really good because you're playing in these really good teams. But actually, those English players are just vastly overhyped in a good team. They're not actually that good.
I think that opens up, I suppose, two things that are, well, one thing I'd love to discuss at some point later on, one thing I'd rather not, because I think football's a load of shit. But, I mean, with football itself, it's kind of difficult to compare the two because of how saturated everywhere is with football, because it is such...
Yeah, I think it is a different thing.
Because anyone can play football. All you need is, two jumpers and something that vaguely resembles a ball. And so... and go that to, how many hundreds of millions or billions is invested in it all over the world. It's kind of the disparity between the two sports, and trying to compare the two is a bit iffy. But I mean, I suppose the other part is, where was I going this? Well, yeah, what I think would be best to discuss in another podcast altogether is that if you look at, say, England as a country, that we are the richest rugby union, we have the most registered players, we should, according to everybody else, have the best team, and we don't. New Zealand do. And so it's as to why or how or what. There's an idea I saw floated a while ago that perhaps the best thing that England could do is have something more akin to what Scotland, Wales, or Ireland have, in which they have between them, those four countries, 10 teams. So
you reckon condense it down like the Super Rugby teams have?
It's something like that. I mean, it's a difficult issue to broach anyway, because of how kind of
set in our club ways that we are.
How much of, I suppose, some kind of historic significance most of the clubs have.
Well, you're gonna
areas and to unions. So
you're gonna struggle with the big clubs. They're not gonna want to dissolve. So all these West Country teams that you might put into a super team, you might put Exeter, Bath, and Gloucester and make one big super team. Even Bristol would be a good source in that area. But no one wants to do that, because you lose those teams.
We have the pool that we have to select players from sometimes seems too big, and were it to be, cut in half.
So it should be even more competitive. So exactly. we could almost do with, so what they've got in Super Rugby is they've got the clubs, then they've got the regions, and then they've kind of got the main Super Rugby teams, don't they?
But so what I'm getting at is this is what I mean by it's clearly something that I think needs to be looked into more and discussed in another podcast, because we'll run away with it here.
I think what you're discussing would be a better county level rugby. That's what you might be suggesting there, and I think that's quite an interesting idea. But it's not something that we really should be talking about now. Adam, just quickly
to get back to the point. Money club and country both to the better. Not sure which one more so, but both.
Okay, Adam, do you want to quickly, very briefly, talk about money and how it might increase the popularity within the sport?
Well, was it today? Rwanda was the 103rd team to join World Rugby. So obviously it's having a bigger impact, and the more coverage it's getting, the more it's being shown on screens around the world. Like for one game, I think it was an Australia game, the more people from the Netherlands watched that game than Australian people.
And you're bang on.
Like, the exposed coverage is going to expose more people to the game. They see it, they enjoy it. So I think it will only do good for the popularity. But then you get the dangers with the more money being thrown at it. You kind of run into football territory where you'll get teams. Well, I mean, the football deals for Premier League, it's like, I think each team gets 120 million pounds a year.
It's
silly money.
You brought up something interesting in my mind, where obviously the football problem, but are we sacrificing these individual countries' problems, so the ones that are established with all the money, are we sacrificing their international to improve the actual global audience? And I think, is that something that we want to do? Do we want to sacrifice England, France, and their international setups for the good of rugby in the whole world? I mean, France have made the view that yes, we want to do that, and I think Bath and Sarries and possibly some of the others are saying yes, let's do that because we want to create rugby as a spectacle and we want to sell it to the world. But I think there's some inkling of the international, and the Irish are very against it. They want their national setup to always be the top dog,
and it always will be.
And as Harbl says, it always will be to them. So I think it's all about finding the balance. And I think at the moment the English have a nice balance, but it is being tipped one way or the other, and they probably need to find a new balance very soon before that someone starts throwing a strop. And I think someone will start throwing a strop at some point.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to questions. This is my favourite question. Okay, I thought this was near the end. This is question 6. We're going to Harbl straight away because he hasn't said anything for a while. If you can invent one rule to change the game for the better, what would it be? And I have my answer already queued up. I know what I've got. So, if you can invent one rule to change the game for the better, what would it be? And then I'm going to put a twist on it after you've said for the better. So, change a rule.
For the better, I'd like to see some sort of improvement at scrum refereeing.
Yeah, this is okay.
So I don't know if I'm stealing anybody's ideas here. Maybe we should have told each other.
Yeah, my idea as well.
I think this is quite a hot topic for us, and we've discussed this quite a lot.
Well, what I was going to say would be the introduction of either some sort of expert scrum referee, or the idea has been touted that you have 2 referees on the pitch at any given time anyway. Now, I don't know exactly how that would work, or the best way to regulate that, but at least if it comes to scrum time, and you do have one expert, or at least 2 referees, one on either side, directly looking at it, that might see a slight improvement, or it could be absolutely chaotic. I haven't a clue. I didn't expect to have this question at all. That's my answer.
So my twist on that, in fact, Adam, is that your answer as well? Something to do with scrum
Pretty
time?
much, yeah. But the only danger with it is potentially slowing down the game even more, and I think that's something that people complain about.
Would it speed up the game? Because it would speed up scrums.
I think.
What if referees disagree with each other, though?
Yeah, and if you get disagreeing, you need to have one voice reffing, and that's the thing. I know you're saying 2 refs on the pitch, and my point is that it is a specialised scrum ref, and that scrum ref has the final say at scrum time. But then you need to start to define when's the beginning of scrum time and when's the end.
Can I put in my one law change, which I would stop the clock.
It's a law, yes, of course.
I would stop the clock for setting up a scrum. It's the moment a scrum is called, stop clock. The moment ball is fed into scrum, start clock. And then even if there's all that silly buggers and people taking the piss with trying to slow down play, it doesn't affect the clock.
Okay.
I think every front row just cried.
I think the forwards are absolutely dying at the thought of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I love that idea.
My next question, which is a change, is rather than for the better, I'm putting for the more bizarre. So which law would you introduce to make the game slightly more bizarre? Not unplayable, but just slightly more bizarre.
Oh, I was about to say 2 balls.
Okay, well
that might make it unplayable.
That's a playable game, because then you need to almost split into 2 teams, one that defends and one that attacks.
Wait, say again. 2 balls, did you say?
2 balls.
Yes.
2 balls. Yeah, that's to make the game more bizarre. That would
just slightly more bizarre. I'm saying at 20 minutes, they release 15 chickens onto the pitch. And just they just got to now deal with chickens. If you kill a chicken by accident, you lose the game.
No, it's what I've got. It's probably too bizarre, and I'd probably need to do a bit more mental gymnastics to work out how exactly it would be played, and how you'd have to alter, or not even alter because it wouldn't work, but change or build new stadiums. But have rugby played between 3 or 4 teams on a Y or X-shaped pitch.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You're looking at concussion central right there. There's deaths going on, I think.
I was about to say, how many people will die?
Just every team has... I mean, it would make things interesting with regards to the dynamics of rucks and scrums and...
Yeah, the dynamics of rucks. Where's the gate at that point?
Because if you've got 3 teams or 4 teams, and then,
Chaos.
Team A going from one bit, and then they cross into this kind of no man's land.
And then at 20 minutes, they release 15 chickens onto the pitch.
And then 2 balls. Wait, there's going to be 2.
There's going to be 4 balls.
Fixed.
They'd have to be different coloured balls, so that everyone knew which balls they were playing with.
They change colour. They change colour, and then they light up, and you can only play the one that's lit up. And the moment it goes dark, you have to drop it and play with the one.
Oh, that would be really interesting.
That does make sense, because then you wouldn't start, confusing the balls with chickens. Because they don't light up.
Light up chickens.
See, this is why it was my favourite question, because I knew I could build on it to be quite a funny one in the end.
Adam, you haven't contributed.
Adam, we need a bizarre rule, or law, rather.
You bring on a guy who's wearing a helmet and pads, and he just takes out anyone he wants to.
Okay, so we're bringing on an American football player, because that's the representative I have in my head, and he's allowed to just take anyone out, but not Dan Carter. That's against the rules.
Any All Black.
So he's allowed to take anybody out, with or without the ball, and is he allowed to play the ball himself?
No, he could just take out people.
He's just allowed to make tackles. Right,
even if they don't have the ball.
He could just go for a fullback if he wants.
It would increase people's spatial awareness, I think. They'd start to be like, oh shit, the pad guy's there, and start fucking...
That just becomes a glorified game of chasing, trying not to get, clobbered by somebody. And he's going to be going for the small people on the pitch. So, scrum half, fly half.
Scrum time. Every time there's a scrum
he just comes charging across. Okay, I'm going to put a little variation. Once he's chosen an angle to run at, he has to maintain that angle. So if he's running at a scrum half at scrum time from behind and he moves slightly, he's just going straight through the scrum. He can't slow down. He's just going straight through. Anyway, so...
Game of bowling.
Yeah. We're going to move on to question 7, because that was quite fun. This one's way more serious and actually takes up the whole screen. I couldn't find a way at which I could condense this, although there probably is an easy way. There's a few vacant positions all over the world for Jake White, one of the front runners for the England job. Which one will he take, or will he keep trying to win a top 14... Or he says top 14 title with Brumbies and Sharks, but I think he means Super 14.
Which is now 15.
Which is now Super 15.
Super
18 or 19 or 20.
Yeah.
So, I mean, although Jamal Kim 123, it's a great question. It's got some small mistakes. Anyway, let's go. Jake White.
You know what it means.
What do we think people do? The problem is neither Nero or Barbs are here, and there are key conversation starters with Super 15.
Why did you bring up this question that is so blatantly placed with a southern bias without either of us?
I just copied and pasted them into Paint and then made a picture of them. I'm going to say that he's not going to be the England coach.
I hope not.
I don't think he will be. No.
I think the RFU will not make that decision. They do not
stay
want
long enough
him.
in a job to...
Exactly. I don't think he'd last 4 years, and so I just don't think the RFU are going to pick him.
Didn't he say today that
you'll win them a World Cup?
Yeah, I will win you World Cup. So it was grammatically incorrect as well, but yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't great. But
no, I'm not convinced by him. He doesn't. He just doesn't strike me as the person that would be a good fit culturally or just in the setup of the RFU. I don't know if I'm just talking absolute BS there, and people are going to correct me, but I don't know. I just can't see him at the head of the RFU. At the head coach job in the RFU.
Okay, so the next question is question 8 that I've actually just quickly got up here. Lancaster's left. Did he get a fair go? Was he set up for failure? Or is he just a bad coach?
Yes.
Interesting. And who's next? So we started talking about who's next in the last question. Did he get a fair go?
He did.
He did, yeah.
I think he got a completely fair go.
Which is more than a lot of coaches.
Yeah.
I think Johnson had that long.
He got a completely fair go. And he even set up the culture that we all thought was right. And he kind of didn't succeed. I don't know if it's as disastrous as everyone's been saying. I looked at a couple of posts and I thought if Wales and Australia hadn't got out of this group, I don't know if there would have been the same meltdown.
No, well, I think it's kind of worse because it was our home World Cup. I think there was, I don't want to call it arrogance, even though it may well have been, but I mean, a lot of the English attitudes of, we're going to make the quarters, I think you've got to factor in that a lot of it is mostly built on hope for starters. But the other side is, home advantage, beaten Australia the last couple of times at Twickenham. Wales is a bit of a bogey team, especially with high-pressure matches. But I think had Wales...
I think if Wales had gone out, there wouldn't be a meltdown at all. They'd have just gone, we had injuries.
Here's the thing, if Wales hadn't gone out, I don't think it would have been that much of an issue, especially considering that Gatland's... contract was extended to 2019 after the pools were drawn. So there would have always been that eventuality. I think Australia is the one where it gets difficult because if Australia didn't go out, that maybe there's the case that, they'd won 3, lost 1, but there was also the case that they could have lost the 2 to England and Wales. If it was that, there'd be panic and mass pandemonium. If it was beaten one of us, lost to one of us, and still not made it through, I don't think there'd be as much of an issue. But I think the fact that here's the thing, I've said a lot that I dislike our media and that I don't think they're responsible for a lot of our problems. I just think they exacerbate the ones that we have.
Yeah, I mean, things get out that are problems, genuine problems, and the media decide that rather than, they can comment on it and stuff, but rather than kind of report it, they fan the flames and try and get a bigger story out of it.
Everything turns into slander, and it's so often it's horribly frustrating. It doesn't seem like they like the sport or the team at all. They're just finding new reasons to
Well, you've summed up most papers, to be fair, with that one. There is no. We love the sport, and when we report on stuff and when we do analysis and things, it's because we love it. We're not looking for the drama angle, but that doesn't necessarily sell. And if we're honest, the ones that are getting the most clicks on the website are usually the Sam Burgess things. They're usually something, or it's a Barb's analysis because they're just awesome.
To bring him up very quickly though, just with regards to my view on the press, and going back to the question with regards to the whole, I've never been of the opinion that Sam Burgess has been scapegoated by the press. They've just massively gone against him. They've first built him up to fail, and then once it's not gone quite right, made him look like he's the one to fail. Whereas my issue is with the RFU in general, who on their list of Lancaster's World Cup review, he was point number 1 as to his selection was wrong, and Adams disappeared.
That's right. I'm adding back in. Go on, keep moving.
But Lancaster had a whole World Cup cycle. He had 4 years start to finish, and so he's gone. He probably should have stayed. I would have liked to have seen him get a job at the RFU in some kind of managerial position, because that seems to be what he's good at. But as far as I can work out, he's brushed his hands of them.
Yeah, brushed his hands of them.
He doesn't want anything to do with them at the moment, and I think fair enough.
Yeah. Can you blame him?
It's not really, but yeah. Then there's was he set up for failure? Hang on.
He was. I think this question's the most interesting to me because he wasn't set up to failure when he took the job. He was given 4 years. He was let to build his own culture, and he did all of the above. But then there was this moment where we introduced Sam Burgess to rugby union, and he had to make that bold decision: bring Sam Burgess, drop Burrell, don't bring Eastman, and play the defensive line that suits the players you've got. And
I need to go with this. It's the thing that's getting me so annoyed through this whole World Cup debacle that of us crashing out. This is the issue: is that Sam Burgess did so little wrong in the position he was put in, and I think him playing was fine. When he came off is when we started losing. If he had stayed in the centres for all of our World Cup games and we'd gone with JJ or Slade instead of Barrett or Farrell, we would have been such a different team. And I think the issue is not Burgess himself, but Lancaster's selection policy as a whole, which has been shit since the beginning, because going with players like Joel Tompkins in an international, or continually picking Billy Twelvetrees when he so often shows that he has a good game and then 4 shit ones, or management of substitutes on the bench whereby he takes off, all those times in the 2014 Six Nations where he took off Danny Kerr, and suddenly our entire game plan went to shit. And
I think the key is that he set up too negatively for this World Cup. We had played so many other games in a positive mindset. When we beat New Zealand in 2013, we went out there with a positive mindset. When we played well in the Six Nations, not against Ireland necessarily, but when we actually played well, like against the French, we played positively because we wanted to score tries, and we set up negatively for this World Cup. We set up not to lose, and I think that as soon as that happened, and it's not Burgess's fault, but he is a defensive player. He's not an attacking flair player. As much as he loves an offload, he's not. And I think that was the problem. I think if we spend too long talking about this, it'll just get...
It's going to piss everyone off, because I think they're already fed up of it. But I think that what it comes down to is he just a bad coach, and should he leave, which was one of the points.
Yeah, that was one of the questions.
His leaving is, I suppose, might still be up in the air. I mean, if he was given another year or two, what would change? Has he learnt from his mistakes? But I don't think he has, because he's made quite a few, and we kept on showing trust in him. I think he just need, if he'd had 4 years of club or international experience prior to becoming our coach, we would have done a lot better. But he didn't. So he
didn't have it. No. And I completely agree. He doesn't have that foundation behind him, which is a shame. But he'll go back and he'll do whatever he wants
wherever he goes next.
Yeah,
possibly.
No, that's true. All right.
Wonder where he'll go next.
All right. Is that Adam?
Yep.
You're all good? We saw you briefly on the video for a second there. That was interesting.
All right, nice.
I missed it.
Oh.
The camera's still on Skype, so...
All right, question 9. Will there be an exodus of English players to France now? And will Japan maintain any form of momentum for the next World Cup? And if so, how? Well, we'll start with the first one. The exodus of English players to France.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, because look at how much money the RFU has, and look at how healthy the game is on the club level in England. Look at the money that certain clubs in England has alone.
Look at Armitage and Abendanon. They've not been picked. They went to France. If you go to France, you don't get picked. That's not going to change.
That won't change. I think I'd like to see something a bit more pragmatic in terms of that policy. Like Ireland, Scotland, Australia. We all have those rules, but they're a bit more pragmatic on that level. I think the Aviva Premiership is healthy enough to retain players, and you might see not the top level players, but maybe up and coming players looking for a bit more experience or money because they're, in contention for a position in their team. They're thereabouts, but not there yet, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That I could see, but I don't see an exodus. And you have to realize as well, for as easy as it is to turn around and say everybody's going to move to France, and a lot of players have done that, it is a complete lifestyle change. It's not everybody's cup of tea as well. The style of rugby is different. The style of coaching is different. The language is different.
The learning of French, yeah. That pure barrier will turn people off.
Look, if you are, I have no, I have no problem doing it, but and it would be something that I personally would relish. But languages and cultural changes also aren't everybody's cup of tea as well. So maybe some players will give it a whack. But I don't see it as being an exodus as such.
Okay. Adam, are you worried that you're going to lose all the best Bath players now to France?
The salary cap got increased, didn't it? It's going up to 6 million next year and then 7.5 million the year after. And then
it's going way up.
Then the two marquee players, it used to be you could only get the marquee player from abroad, so it could only be a foreign player. So like Northampton did with George North. But now you can just sign people from any other English country. Club.
I kind of get really frustrated when George North is counted as a foreign player. I really understand why he is, but
it's stupid.
It's a bit ridiculous, isn't it?
It is funny, yeah.
I mean, he's what? He's just over the border. It's like, come on, it's Wales.
But isn't he England born as well?
Yeah,
I mean, probably. I mean, he's very Welsh. I'm not going to argue that George North is actually.
Oh yeah, no, but he was born in England, though.
Oh yeah, as most Welsh people can be. Yeah.
Apologies to all the Welsh people for that.
The last question has to do with this slideshow that I've put together quite briefly. If everyone wants to just look at this slideshow, it's all just about the worst hair in rugby.
Where is it? Because I'm staring at Adam Jones right now.
Oh, it should just quickly change to Andy Good doing everything that Andy Good does.
Are you about to insult Andy Good's?
No.
Because no. I will take it.
Did anybody else see that there? I think there was a post in the sub that Andy Good had hair implants put in.
Did he?
I think I remember seeing a post like that.
Oh, look at Jack Knoll. Look at that tash and rat tail.
Glorious Cornish specimen that he is.
Absolute Cornish specimen.
Why am I so far behind you guys?
Yeah. The thing is, I'm responding to it. You had Ashley Johnson, did you? I've now got Marla on the screen.
Yeah, I'm on Johnson.
The Jolly Hog Sausage.
Yeah. I mean, the question was posed to us, really, the answer is Luke Cohen-Dickie, and there's no debating that. This is all just, the honorary mentions and the second and third places, but it's Joe Marler in particular is just frightful. I mean, he's clearly, every single one of those is clearly an instance where he has lost a bet.
Here's Luke Cowan-Dickie. Look at that tash and that glorious, glorious mullet. It's just mullet. Excellent. It's the mullet. I couldn't get a side on. I was looking for it, and all the side on pictures are from like when he's really, really young, and nobody's taken a side on. I put Madigan in there as an honorable mention.
So what exactly was the question?
I can't remember because I didn't save it as a
Who has the worst hair?
I'll find out who it is so I can give them credit.
If I knew this, I would have sent you the photo of Ian Madigan. I think it was Leinster versus Harlequins in Lansdowne Road.
If you send me it now quickly, I can put it up.
Oh, I don't know if I'll find it. Basically, some Munster fans he got man of the match. He had a bit longer hair and, of course, cut on the sides as he usually does, longer than the one that you have here. And the front of his hair just flopped over half his face. And Munster fans managed to, I think it was on the Munster fan forum, just found a photo of a llama with the exact same haircut, hair flopping over one eye, and just put them side by side. It was glorious. I couldn't tell the difference.
I've actually found that I've made this question. So because I've made this question, I'm actually going to put it up on the screen, even though we've answered it and even though we've talked about it for ages.
Found the llama in question, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
There it is.
If you type in Ian Madigan llama, it's like the third picture.
All right, Ian Madigan llama. I'm looking this up. But the next one, and Wallopy Joe, I want you to talk through your answers for this one. Who is your favourite dinosaur? And what is your favourite dinosaur?
What is my favourite dinosaur?
What is your favourite dinosaur? I need you to talk through... Oh, I'm not going to get that picture up. It's going to take too long.
Oh, you're not, but you've had like all day. Which is, I don't think I know what my favourite dinosaur is. I don't have an answer to this.
Oh, but I have a... Oh,
what?
Come on. You've been at it all day. You can't have a go at me. We've got...
You've got to have a top three.
You've got to have a top three. You've got to have a top three.
Top three, fine. Well, okay, it's fine. Top three. I don't think I've had a favourite dinosaur since I was about 10, but they're all awesome. I think that it's Triceratops. I always quite like Triceratops because he's got horns and he can poke things. And there's that one in Jurassic Park that's done a big pile of shit, and it's in that movie. And it's going to be really cliched. So it's
come on.
It's okay, fine. It's let's go with Brachiosaur. Just because that, again, the first moment you see a dinosaur in Jurassic Park is that moment with the swelling John Williams music, and it leaps up for some reason to eat a high branch when it could eat a lower branch. And T-Rex, or perhaps what the velociraptors in Jurassic Park and World are, even though they're technically Utahraptors because velociraptors are tiny. And yeah.
I think this is Barbarossa. Was it Barbarossa?
Barbarossa 1.
Yeah, he has unleashed what he doesn't even understand. I think it's a plesiosaurus, and I think it's a swimming dinosaur. An aquatic one. The one that... Has everyone seen the Jurassic World?
Oh, the Moses.
No, I haven't.
I haven't.
That big old swimming one that eats the whatever. Yeah. I don't want to ruin it.
On London South Bank a couple of weeks ago when the Blu-ray came out.
Bloody huge, that thing.
Yeah. I have to be honest though, my favourite dinosaur is a chicken.
Hey! Especially when they're released onto pitches at 20 minutes.
Terrorising 15 players. Oh god. All birds are descended from dinosaurs, so boom. Yep. Science in your asses.
Science in your asses.
Sciencing, not
no,
science in.
No, that's what you said. I'm sorry.
Terrible.
But I think we're going to end it there, and I'm going to quickly find out if I can play.
Hang on. Just one more question. I feel is.
Oh, go on.
It's from a user called, let's try and pronounce this right, Blatks.
Okay.
Blatks. He's a Kiwi. Yes. Who's the biggest tosser in rugby?
I didn't want to put that one in because I didn't. Okay, go on. Go for it. The biggest tosser in rugby.
Any, I don't know, non-English fan would probably say Dylan Hartley.
Hartley's up there, but I think that
I don't
Julian
understand. Dupuis.
Right.
He's my most hated player of all time as a Bath fan. He's just a little cunt.
Can I make a small point, not in defence of Hartley particularly, but more in attack of Manu Tuilagi? Because whilst I think he is not particularly a tosser, I think that he has one of the luckiest PR moves ever, in of the fact that because he's always a smiling little devil, the fact that he's absolutely, almost unprovoked, belted the living crap out of Chris Ashton. He literally, he's just, and I just don't think that, in my eyes, is actually, I don't know, it's ridiculous. I don't understand how that has not been more vilified.
That series of events was Tuilagi takes out Ashton with a high tackle. Ashton takes umbrage and just gives him a little shove, which is just incredibly restrained. And in response to that, Tuilagi clouts him around the head, I think 3 times with
just absolutely,
and yet they both get yellow cards rather than nothing and a red.
And how? Yeah.
For what I've just said, then I'm sure I could pick a player or a coach like Toulons, but I'm going to go with Wayne Barnes just for that decision in that incident with Ashton and Tuolangi. He gets a yellow card.
I think as a ref, if you don't see it, it's very hard. But yeah, it is ridiculous that they both got yellows.
Ashton gets a bit shit beaten out of him. He
I mean,
stood up and took it as well.
He took it well. But that frustrates me because I mean there are big tossers in this world, but Tuolangi is not even put in the same ballpark, and yet he's done that. You know, not many people have done that. Duncan McRae did it to O'Gara, a little bit worse.
Oh, that was a lot more. That
was worse.
On someone on the ground.
Yeah, that was worse. But I think
there are levels.
Yeah, but I still think, you know, and he's known as being the biggest cunt, surely.
Oh, is he?
Well, surely for that incident alone.
Well, in fact, no, because then if you want to go that way, then I mean, as much as his character may have improved in the 2 or 3 years since, Callum Clark broke another player's elbow. Or arm, rather, after the whistle got blown, putting his arm into a lock, and
very true.
Right, so it's you know, and I'll tell you just because before we finish, his ban got cut from 52 to 26 weeks for having no prior incidents, whereas he'd actually been red carded a year or two before in an under-20s World Cup final for a swinging elbow and a headbutt in a maul, which I thought was funny when I heard that happened.
Vicious.
But it's not. It's quite ridiculous, but.
Go on.
There's this question: can we choose absolutely anybody in rugby union, as in it doesn't need to be a player?
Yeah, go on, pick whoever.
Currently playing. Austin Healy.
Oh, that's bang on the money.
That one was too easy. I've been waiting for you guys to kind of finish up and just sneak that one in.
You just wanted to get in there. And I think we leave it at that because that is probably spot on. I'm going to play the music. You guys can't hear it, but I can.
Oh, yeah, we can't hear anything.
No, it's wonderful though.
I'm looking at Brian O'Driscoll right now. It's fucking glorious. He's on BT Sport.
You're not just looking up pictures of Brian O'Driscoll. No. I thought you were just like, I'm looking at him right now. It's glorious.
Friday night.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just what Deck does on a Friday. It's what every Irish rugby fan does on a Friday.
Box of Kleenex and some prod.
They're getting prepared for their Saturday game, so they were just like, "Oh, gotta look up O'Driscoll."
Sorry, yeah, it's Sunday game, so I got 2 days of this.
Oh goodness.
I tell you what you need to do is you need to start randomly Skyping people or just ringing them up. If you Skype them, you have to set your profile picture to a picture of Brian O'Driscoll and just start calling people up in Ireland and pretending you're Brian O'Driscoll. Call up your old neighbours, his old teammates in Sean O'Brien and Heaslip, and just ask them how they're doing.
Okay, that's going to be it from the Linebreak Podcast. We're going to end it here because otherwise we're
already done.
You're still broadcasting.
No, I'm still broadcasting.
I thought you.
Oh my god.
Bye, guys.
Oh,
to hear this.
Yep.